Finding the cause of engine trouble is easier when you're thoroughly familiar with all the parts of the engine. The ignition system, the fuel system, all the mechanical parts, the lubrication system, and the propeller. Sometimes the symptoms of trouble will show you right away where the trouble is, if you know your engine well enough. Here are two troubleshooting problems where this is the case. First, a rough-running engine. And second, low oil pressure. Whenever you're troubleshooting, check the obvious symptoms first. Here is an engine trouble common in the experience of every mechanic. You may be warming up an airplane and notice that the engine is running rough. How can you find out why? You know that all engines are rough until they warm up. But here's one that doesn't smooth out, even when it's been running for some time. Furthermore, in addition to rough running, you can hear a popping noise. The engine is misfiring out through the exhaust pipe. It's probably mechanical trouble. You'd better stop the engine by shutting off the fuel before any damage is done and troubleshoot for the cause. When the engine stops, kill the switch and make sure the throttle is full open before you remove the cowling and touch the propeller. First thing to check for is general mechanical trouble. Here's a cylinder with weak compression, and you can hear a hissing noise. Evidently, a valve is sticking. The cause of roughness might be in the ignition or fuel systems, or even in the propeller. But here, everything seems to point to the valves, so check them before you look anywhere else. Have someone pull the propeller through for you while you check. Sure enough, the exhaust valve is stuck open. It's a good idea to check the springs first. A broken spring won't close the valve properly. The springs seem all right. The chances are a gum deposit has collected in the valve stem guide, holding the valve open. The proper solvent will loosen that up. Carefully work it into the valve stem and guide with a soft-faced mallet. If the mixture and the pounding seem to free the valve, check it while someone moves the propeller for you. Now the valve is fully closing. It will take a ground test to see if it will operate properly while the engine is running. Watch this valve carefully. Sticking valves indicate that the engine will probably soon need a top overhaul. Start up the engine for a ground test, but remember, it will run rough for a while. Only after the engine has warmed up will you know whether your troubleshooting has been successful. Okay. The engine is operating smoothly at all speeds up to top ground RPM. The valve you freed is evidently operating properly, and the roughness has disappeared. You've found the trouble. Your pilot has written in the logbook that he noticed high oil temperature and low pressure on his last flight. Run up the engine to check this report. If you notice right away that the oil pressure won't come up to normal, stop the engine. You can seriously damage it if you run it too long. With such obvious signs of oil system failure, you can start to troubleshoot immediately in the lubrication system. A restriction anywhere in the oil lines will cause low pressure and high temperature. But first, maybe the wrong kind of oil is in the sump, or the oil is dirty, or there isn't enough of it. However, there seems to be enough oil, and it's clean. You'll have to look further by checking the oil screen next. Carefully remove the oil temperature bulb so you can see if the screen is clogged. Be careful not to break the bulb or kink the line. Tape it to the engine mount for safety. If the oil screen doesn't seem dirty enough to restrict oil flow, check it for metal particles indicating any internal engine failure. And then clean it. Okay. No particles, and not enough dirt for a restriction that would cause high temperature and low pressure. Replace the screen. After you safety it, you can check further for the trouble. Don't forget to replace the oil temperature bulb before you remove the pressure relief valve. It doesn't take much dirt here or on the valve seat to keep the valve slightly open. This will cause a drop in pressure and overheating when the lubricating oil bypasses the engine. Make sure the seat and the valve are thoroughly clean before you replace the assembly. That dirt you found on the pressure relief valve was probably enough to cause low oil and high temperature. You can't tell in a ground run-up whether you've entirely eliminated the high oil temperature, but you can see if the pressure is all right. It's a good idea to run the engine a while to make sure the pressure stays up to normal. The only way to really make sure the trouble's been corrected is to check with the pilot after the test flight. Remember, whenever you must troubleshoot, check obvious symptoms first. When you're sure of the system that's causing the trouble, check each part thoroughly. Trace the trouble through the entire system until you find the cause. Then eliminate it to restore the engine to top operating condition.